Hey, it's Amaya with Neil Patel, and right now I'm going to walk you through the Target Market Customer Insights and Data worksheet. Now, this is going to be kind of fun because I want you to write down as many specific answers as possible, because in our upcoming competitive intelligence modules, and as well as a few other modules in future months of content, you're going to learn a lot more about your target market, and I would love to see you compare what you thought you knew or what you originally had recorded down or measured in your business versus how it changes over time. So let's get started. So number one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a complete mystery and 10 being your best friend, how intimately do you think you know your customer? That's a quick one. Write down a 1 or a 10. Number 2, what's the age of your hyperactive buyer? Your hyperactive buyer are the people that buy the most often. They are the most loyal. They come back over and over again. These are the people that you literally could sell snow to an Eskimo type of situation. They're just in love with you or your product. Number 3, what is your hyperactive gender skew? Again, that majority that comes back over and over again, are they primarily male? Are they primarily female? Try to write down a percentage if you can, like maybe it's 30% female and 70% male. Number 4, what are your target clients' top 5 pain points? Don't just list things that would be about specific features or benefits within your own service or product, but also their emotional fears, irrational fears, things that are semi-related. In some previous videos, we had talked about there's irrational fears, like if you're in the weight loss niche, you may find that someone literally is scared that people will point and laugh at them if they don't lose weight before they go to the beach. Write those things down, especially if you've had specific knowledge come from things like testimonials or surveys you've done with your clients previously. Definitely write down what those irrational, emotional kind of fears are, those pain points, things that really annoy, frustrate, or upset them. What is their why? Why do they do the things that they do? What makes them function? Why would they need your product? What makes them tick? Basically, we want to get down to the essential motivators behind the things that they do, whether that's emotions or a good example of this is that we talked about in a previous video that people in the weight loss niche typically have different motivations depending on the product you're selling. So for people in CrossFit, they want to be tough. They want to say that I really endured everything. And people who choose the SlimFast method, it's all about convenience. They don't want to think about it. They just want to run out the door, drink their SlimFast, and then lose weight. So what is their why? Is it convenience? Is it that they want to be associated with a specific type of street cred? Really think about that and see if you can list a few different reasons why. What are 5 life goals or life outcomes that they desire? And this doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to your product. But if you can find out that a good example is, if they want to get married or fall in love soon. For the weight loss category, not having self-confidence would be a pretty bad thing to go into when you want to date and find a life partner. Self-confidence can make or break who you meet and who you actually end up dating and eventually marrying. So if a life goal is marriage, you have to kind of then reverse engineer it in your marketing and find out. What is it about my product or service that helps them reach that life goal? For someone, again, in CrossFit, to have that endurance is huge because they want to say that they became, in some ways a superhuman, or that they, were able to push their body to the max and accomplish great things physically. So you want to find out what those life goals or life outcomes are, whether that's running a marathon, being a world-renowned, bodybuilder, whatever it is. Put those down, especially when they're dreaming big. Number 7, who are their enemies? That includes right now, back in the past, as well as in the future. And these don't necessarily have to be specific people. They can also be ideas and concepts. For example, some entrepreneurs, they want a step-by-step system that they can literally walk through everything. And what they're against is generalities. That's an enemy to them because they don't want to sit there and guess or be steeped in mystery. Whereas other people, they just want the big picture and they want to figure it out for themselves. So they don't like dogmatic answers or people who are so stuck on one thing. Who are their enemies? Who are they against? Now, who are their heroes? That includes in the past, in the present and in the future. Again, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a specific person. It could be even a product. It could be a brand. It could be a number of things. For example, if we were to look at just my personal heroes, you would find that I really admire American Express because they really live their brand from point A to point Z in the customer acquisition and retention process. They really just serve a superior experience for every single person that comes across them. So they're a hero of mine. I aspire, whenever I do work with any customer or client, to be like American Express. In the past, one of my heroes was Gary Vaynerchuk. He's still one of my heroes right now. Why? Because Gary Vaynerchuk, again, he's a little bit brash, but he also is very big about delivering this bigger than life, really great client experience from point A to point Z. So you start finding, when you look at the heroes, people that they aspire to be, people that they've always been impressed by, that there is usually a thematic thread running through each of them. And they all kind of stay in one simple idea or category. It's very, very interesting. Number 9, what is their Axiom profile? Now, you may not know what an Axiom profile is. It's kind of an old school term that was used in like broadcast and television advertising. An axiom is a defined period of time that someone was extremely influenced culturally by events. So people in the 70s will have specific events or people that really influence them kind of as a whole. You can kind of group them together. People in the 90s will, if you grew up in the 90s, you probably would have been affected by things like, Kurt Cobain and his rise and fall. If you're in the later 2000s, Michael Jackson's death was a big one. These are all really big events. Things like the landing on the moon or the assassination of a president. That Axiom profile will tell you a lot about the group that you're working with because it shows their personal values a lot of times. Why would they be affected culturally by that? So you want to list as many things that fit that Axiom profile as you possibly can. What's their favorite movie? Again, cultural influences are really big. You'll also find that this has a lot to do with their personal values. You may find that they have a lot of the same genre of movie, or they all have the same kind of lesson. Maybe it's about aesthetics, maybe it's about the script, maybe it's a blockbuster. Whatever it is, it'll tell you a lot about your customer type. And if you want to find more about this, you can go on something like Facebook, look at a group of people that you consider to be your target clientele and the groups or the things that they like, whether it's specific movies or music, things like that. It's the same here for favorite music and artists. You want to be as artistically specific as possible because it's going to reveal, again, a lot about the person that you're targeting. Another thing that's kind of cool about this is that if you know that someone, say, likes Pink Floyd, you can create ads that actually mirror or mimic the style of their album art or make parodies with music to kind of reach out to people and gain their interest. It's the same with movies. You could create a parody YouTube commercial or something like that. The reason you may want to even study the artists that they have been deeply entrenched with is because they had a specific way of marketing to that group of people, and it may reveal more about your target audience than you didn't know before. So what are their interests? This could be anything from hobbies to things that they do every day of their life. Interests is a pretty broad range. If you are experienced, again, with using Facebook, you can find a lot about the interest category for your target market by just doing a quick graph search. Use the search bar at the top, look through pages, people, things like that, find out who likes them, why they like them, what the crossover is. You start to see things kind of emerge in a pattern. What are their regrets in life? In the previous couple of videos, I talk about the principle of gain versus loss, and most people will put more energy and motivation behind not losing something versus gaining something. Regret tells you a lot about things that they are deeply affected by, that they've lost in the past. And that can actually give you a clear way of motivating them to purchase your product. It can also make something that you guys can bond over, whether that's losing an opportunity, maybe you've done it yourself and you can kind of make it part of your brand story, or it could even be about gaining something. You thought it was going to be really great and then it wasn't. And that's maybe part of your brand story about why you started your business or why you created your product. So regrets are something you can really tie in that helps you have that emotional connection with people you didn't have before. What are their biggest real fears? Not irrational, not imagined, but real fears, things that they stay up at night at because it's something that they actually have a reason to fear. Who or what is their life nag? Now, there are a couple different ways you can take this. A life nag may or may not be an actual person. It could be someone like maybe it is their wife because they are constantly forgetting their wife's anniversary with them. Or it could literally be a concept, like it's just something that bugs them. Maybe they look around their house and they can't believe how much of a slob they've become. Or maybe it's that they really hate their commute and it nags them in the back of their mind. It's important to look at the possible different nags of your target market because you can actually give them relief to that nag. Who or what drives their guilt? Again, this kind of ties into the nag thing. If it's a specific person, like let's say we'll use the wife example again. Easy stereotype here. Your wife makes you dinner every day and she cleans your clothes and she does so much for you and gosh, why can't you remember her anniversary? It's just so important to her. It should be important to you. It's the day you met. That's a terrible guilt to have because you feel like you're not providing or doing enough or not grateful. Be specific here. Notice how I just gave a lot of different reasons behind the guilt. Are you not providing? Are you not doing enough? Do you care enough about her? Those are specific things that drive that guilt. It's the motivation behind the guilt. Now, we come back to your product here. What does your product really solve? We just got through looking at the different motivations, the positives of why someone in your market would want to buy from you, and the negatives, like what negative thing are you helping to resolve in their life? You should have a mix of both. It's not one way or the other. For example, with weight loss, you're helping someone to have more energy and keep up with their kids. That's a really positive thing. At the same time, you're helping them avoid getting something like diabetes or maybe helping resolve diabetes or hypertension or heart disease. Those are pretty big things. So you want to make sure you put that here, really solve. Maybe it's giving them peace of mind. There's a nice emotional motivation. The peace of mind behind why they would want to lose the weight is huge. It's helping really provide relief or a solution to something that is bigger to them than just looking better when they're naked. Lastly, what visual symbols or metaphors best represent you or your business? Prime example of this, Nike. You think of the Just Do It slogan, and by itself it's nothing, but when you remember all the advertisements of underdogs that became champions, and you see that check mark, it's just checking something off the list. You're going to go against the odds and you're going to win anyways, and you're going to check it. That's what Nike actually means, just do it. That's a visual metaphor. It could be something that's in your logo. It could be something that you use in a story. There's a lot of different ways of thinking about this. So what do you think visually represents you or your business that your client would really connect with or does connect with already? And remember, this whole process is about getting to know your client because the more that you know and connect with your client, the more likely they are to buy your product, the more likely they are to come back to you, and the more likely they are to be extremely satisfied by what you've provided to them. You're not just fulfilling a physical or material need, you also are helping fulfill a personal value of theirs. And that's why we have you fill these questionnaires out, is because as we build on your brand and your sales process, it's going to help you create something so much more powerful than, hey, I got this thing, will you buy it? So let's move on to the next workbook. Remember to fill this out as thoroughly as possible because in upcoming modules, you're going to find out a lot more additional information about your target clientele, as well as your own product and how it solves that dire need and desire that they have. So this is all really exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.